Hello, welcome to the new episode of the Bridge Podcast. My name is Sammy Peters, and today I am here with Joan Pierre, who has, I feel, an incredible amount of stories to tell. We've had a phone call a few days ago, about a week ago, and I feel like that could have gone on for hours. So I'm very excited to hear everything you have to say about immigrating to Canada in your mid-20s to from there going studying and building incredible leadership roles in media and events planning. And I'm very excited to get into this conversation. If you want to introduce yourself.
Joan Pierre, my passion, event planning. That's what I really sit on all these years. I'll try to give as much as I can to this interview, especially to the younger generation. So many things they're missing out on and just not thinking about it. But if we place it in front of them, I think they will listen and learn. And I hope I can share as much as I can today with you. Thanks for inviting me in.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So I grew up in Europe, in Belgium. And so Caribbean culture of Trinidad and Tobago is not something I was very educated about until I moved here, and then I was exposed to it a bit more. So I guess my first question is, what was it like growing up in Trinidad and Tobago? I know that up until the early 60s, it was, it gained its independence in the early 60s. And I guess you saw that. And what was that experience like? What is the culture like growing up there? If it's changed, how it's been brought to here? I know. It's a heavy question, but we can start at, what was it like growing up there?
Okay. Growing up in the Caribbean is really, I look back at it and it's a joy in many ways. You know the saying, it takes a village to grow, to take care of all the people in the village, especially the children. That is so true. Because when you grow up in the Caribbean, if you behave badly in school or on the street, it's at your house before you get there.
Really?
Yeah. Somebody's going to tell your parents, listen, your child did X, Y, or Z.
Right, okay.
Now, also, they have the privilege to correct us. As an outside person, they see you on the street doing something wrong, they could correct you and say, look, if your parents see you doing this, they're going to be really upset at you. So, don't do it.
So you can't get away with anything?
You can't get away with anything.
Okay.
So the village really looked after you and made you stronger because they're watching out for you in good and bad. Okay. So growing up in the Caribbean, most of the Caribbean islands are very much like that. We look after each other, we help each other, we support each other in all circumstances. So it's really something I look back on. I left there in my early 20s, but it was a fantastic foundation for me. Right. Also, being the first of 10 children.
Yeah, that's
that created another level of responsibility. My mom, a great mother, a great wife. She was just superb and a very quiet person. She just had to look at you. She didn't have to say much.
And you knew
what she meant.
Right.
And that is something that you cherish because you know how kids can be. But then in my very early years, in my teens, early teens that is, I became like a second mom because it's 10 children. So I had to step in and help and do whatever I can for my mom and my siblings. I got a lot out of it.
Sure.
I became a fantastic cook. Because on weekends, my mom, I'm like the sous chef in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Watching her, prepping stuff. And in the end, as people will tell you in Toronto now, if you want something done well in the kitchen, go to Joan. They just love my cooking. I cook for many things. I even cook for weddings sometimes.
Really?
My friends, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
I love to cook.
So
Cooking
even
is
for
like
a lot
a thing.
for like groups of people, it's no problem. Okay. All right.
And tell 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 is okay. Just tell me early enough and I can do it.
Okay.
So I really, due to my mom helping her, help the family, I learned a lot. I learned a tremendous amount. And that's what it is growing up in the Caribbean. Most Caribbean islands have the same approach with their children, helping them be the best they can by showing them examples.
Yeah, and a close sense of community then as well, I suppose.
Completely.
Do you, compared to here, like, I think it took a while to sort of get that sense of community. Do you feel that you have that here in Toronto as much?
Yes and no. Because in Toronto, we have all the islands here.
Yeah.
We have every single island in this country. And sometimes we don't always merge together.
Okay.
But it's very important for the younger generation to learn from their parents, where they came from, and also learn from the other islands as well. Although we are all island people, we have different cultures, we have different foods.
Yeah.
So you could learn a lot from the different cultures of the Caribbean islands, and you can also enjoy their food, their culture, their style. There are many things that are different, although we are all from the islands. But we have lots of similarities that we can relate to.
That's sort of what I was gonna ask as well. Like, again, it's not something I'm super familiar with. So, how it's good that you mentioned that, because like I was a bit confused not confused, but like I wanted to know about how different each culture of each country within the Caribbean is, within each island. So it's I assume there's a huge difference, but then also just like a lot of similarities.
Yeah. There are many things. I mean, music. We all have different types of music through the Caribbean.
Okay.
And food. I learned to cook Jamaican food, Bajan food, Guyanese food, and it's all different. Even just a simple thing, let's talk about curry.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own curry flavor or curry style of cooking.
Sure.
The Jamaican curry and the Trinidadian curry is very different. And curry from India, an East Indian person cooking curry, is different from the Trini curry. Guyanese curry is different from ours as well. So although it's one spice,
a lot changes.
During the islands. What they add to it, how they approach it, how they start cooking it, it's all very different. Some people will take the meat and put curry in the seasoning. I don't do that. They season with the curry. I don't.
So which island has the best one?
Well, it really depends. We always say that Trinidadians have the best curry.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm from Trinidad. But I wouldn't say it's just that. It's the style and it's what we eat the curry with. We have a lot of East Indians in Trinidad. And we learn that from the East Indians.
Right.
And they are solid with their meals. And that's where all the roti and the doubles, all those things come out of Trinidad. So that's why we tend to say our curry is the best.
Okay. That's fair enough. And then, so one thing I was particularly curious about, because we, as a 21-year-old, we don't see things like that as much as you would have in like the mid to late 20th century. How was it for living in Trinidad and Tobago when it gained its independence? Because I'm Algerian and it gained its independence in 1972, I believe, from France. And I loved listening to stories from my aunt and my grandmother about what that was like and that transition to, that old battle. And you were probably still very young then, but if you remember anything from it, because I don't think at 13 years old I would have really realized what that meant. But
I would say what I could remember about our independence is the recognition that our own individuals were running the country. We could look at our prime ministers and all the ministers. They all one of us. We didn't have the British or being heads of state in any way.
Yeah.
So that was a big change. And that gave individuals the ability to be proud of who they are because they see their own in the people being in position of power
And build their own identity.
and build their own. Exactly. So that is what it brought for us. And we remain that way, very strong, being an independent little island and doing what we want for our own people
Yeah.
and not anybody dictating to us what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And that's what I recognize as the change when we became independent.
Yeah. Whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision, it's your decision.
That's
pretty
right.
much.
That's right.
Okay. So then after that, you have 9 little siblings, and then you decide at 25, am I right, to move to Toronto.
Canada.
Why?
Well,
That was
that's you wouldn't believe why I came to this country. Being the first of 10 and being that second mother, I woke up one day and realized I didn't know who I was,
okay.
what I wanted to do with my life. Who am I? What I want to achieve? I was working with the airlines at that time and supporting the home and just being this individual with no specific goals
Right.
at that time. So a friend of mine came back on holidays to Trinidad. I always remember she came for Christmas, a very good friend. And I chat with her, what is Canada like? And she says, Joan, the type of person that you are, you'll do well in Toronto.
Okay.
Come to Toronto. I said, what? She said, yeah, there are opportunities for people like you because knowing me from age 5, she knew the type of person that I was, the get up and go, do person.
Yeah.
And I had family at McMaster University as teachers. So in those days, you could have your uncles sponsor you.
Okay. Right.
So that was the way I went to him and I said, I want to come to Canada. And he said, okay. And he sponsored me. And in a matter of a year, I was here.
Oh.
So it was pretty fast, a shock to my dad.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, a shock to my dad. Not my mom. I told my mom first because my mom understood the desire I had. Dad saw me as after finishing like grade 13 equivalent and all of that, that I was going to just help the family sort of. And I was, but I really had to find me and who I wanted to be. So that's how I came to Canada.
And how did your siblings
No
react
regrets.
to that? No regrets?
No regrets. My siblings were okay. They missed me, yes, because I was a huge figure in the home.
Of course.
They missed me because I got my license at age 17. So I was the second driver in the house. So when they want to go someplace, get Joan, Joan will take them.
Okay.
So for many reasons, they missed me when I left. But then I encouraged some of them to come and join me. So I encouraged a brother first, and then a sister after that, then another sister after that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had a couple of them came to Canada after I came here.
Okay. And you guys still go back often?
Yeah.
All right, so that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So then what were your first impressions when you moved here? The cold?
Well, the funny thing is, I flew into the States first by my cousins.
Okay.
So, because they said they'll outfit me with winter clothes. I came in February
Okay.
because they gave me a limited time to get out of the country
Okay.
when you got your papers.
Yeah.
So I had no choice. February, I'm coming into North America. And so coming in
In minus 20?
from the plane and looked down and saw all this white stuff. It was really heavy snow in New York at that time. And I went, Dr. Zhivago. That's all I saw, the movie. Dr. Zhivago, I'm going to land in this place with people just freezing. So it was quite a shock. But
Yeah.
anyway, I landed. They had the clothes for me and all was fine.
You
But
managed?
it's funny how the first morning they left notes for me and went to work. And I'm in the house, right?
Yeah.
So I woke up and I saw blue skies. And I was like, oh, it's not cold. I had on shorts and a t-shirt and I stepped out. And I had a rude awakening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't look at the skies in winter.
Yeah, that was one of the first things me and my mom noticed when we moved here. It's 'cause
Yeah.
In Belgium, it gets around -1 or 2, but it gets very gray.
Yeah.
So then it's just sad.
Sad. Yeah.
But here in the winter, like it'll be freezing, but it'll still be relatively blue, and it'll completely
Yeah.
mislead you.
That completely
Yeah.
shocked me that day.
yeah.
I flew back inside and said, okay, so this is winter.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. And then you went on to study theater production.
Yeah.
How come theater production?
Well, I worked in Bell Canada, my first job.
First, you worked at
Bell
Bell
Canada.
Canada, and then
Yeah.
okay.
So I worked in Bell Canada for like 14 years. But while I was there, my husband, he's a theater person. He's an IT guy. Was at the time. He's retired now.
So
But-
you could have done all this equipment.
Yeah. But he's, he went to many, many shows. And in the shows, I'm always nudging him and saying, how did they get those lights like that? I was curious as to how they made things happen. I was seeing beyond the show,
Right.
not just watching what was happening on stage. So he said to me, why don't you go and study it if you like it so much? What do you mean study it? Just go and do some courses on the side. Okay. So I went to Humber College first and did lighting because I was fascinated by lights.
Okay.
And after that, after volunteering my time in the community in theater shows, doing lighting for them, small productions, I was fascinated now with backstage work. So that's how I went to Ryerson at that time. And I did theater production and television production. I did both. All on a part-time while I'm working at Bell. So I could get all those creative things that I was feeling through my husband pushing me into it. I just fell in love with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you just
I just said,
immediately.
this is what I want to do. This is what I want to get involved with productions. I want to get involved with theater. I want to do some television. I wanted to do all of those. And it was him. I always say I am what I am today because of my husband. He really saw that side of me that I didn't see.
How did you meet him? You met him here?
He's
or-
Trini. No, he's Trini as well.
Okay.
But I met him here in my first year. I met him at a show, actually. He was acting. He's also many, many things. He was in this play, and my friend took me to it, and I heard his voice on stage. He has this baritone voice, like James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
That
Mufasa.
kind of voice. People always say that to him anyway. And I went to my girlfriend, who is that guy? That's it.
That's
History.
it. That's
That
it.
was it.
How did you
I
meet him?
just, I
You
met
went
him.
onto the stage?
No. We had an after party afterwards.
Ah, okay.
So, of course, I get to meet him and stuff. And so that's history. That's how I met him. That's how I fell in love with him. And we've been together for 40-something years now.
Wow. So you met him at 26?
72. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I have 5 years. I have 5 years.
Yep.
Okay. And then, so from what I gathered, you went from theater production and then to Caribana. How
How that happened.
what was in between those?
Okay. Well, let's say 14 years in Bell, and then we had our
14
daughter.
years?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had our daughter, and she had bronchial spasm that she was in and out of the hospital constantly. So our decision in 81, the doctor said, get her out of the climate. The climate was interfering with her.
Okay.
Every time we go up and down, she would be in the sick kids.
Right. Okay.
So he says to get her diaphragm strong, get her out of this climate where she's not doing the fluctuation thing.
Yeah.
Of course, he said, go back to Trinidad. And I went like, what? Go back to Trinidad? Yeah. So the decision was first send her home. My husband says, no. If she's going home, you're going home. I said, okay, so if I'm going home, you're going home. So that's how it went. And we all went home. We packed up
Really?
in 1981 and returned to Trinidad.
Wow.
Luckily for us, he had, as an IT person, he could get a contract, snappy finger. So there's no problem for him to get a contract back home. I'm in Bell Canada. I went to my boss and I said to her, well, I'm leaving to go back home. And she says, I'll give you leave of absence for 4 years. Those days they did that in Bell, not now. So I said, okay. And she gave me a leave of absence for 4 years. So when she felt I was coming back. So when you come back, you could come back to the same level management job that you have right now. So, oh, no, that sounds good. So I did that. And a week or two later, she came burst into my office. Joan, Bell Canada is in Trinidad training Trinidadians in the Bell Canada system.
Oh,
Do you want to go and join the team?
wow. Yes.
So of course I did.
Yeah, of course.
So it was easy for me to do that. So that's how we went down. We moved to Trinidad. We lived there for 3 years. My husband's contract was 3 years. Mine was 3 years. And I went like, what we know Canada can offer my daughter is not in Trinidad. So we knew we wanted to come back because we knew what we had here. So we made a decision. At the end of 3 years, we moving back. And we came back to Canada.
And you never doubted it. There was not a moment where you were like, you
No.
know, it's maybe
No.
we stay. Really?
No. It was the best thing we did when we came back for more than two reasons. One is that she never got sick from the time she landed in Trinidad. She never got an attack up to today. And she's 45.
Okay.
Okay, so no attacks.
Yeah.
So she was perfectly fine when she came back. While I was in Trinidad, working with the Bell Telephone Company, I was involved with theater and television.
Right. Okay.
So I built my love for it even more back home because I did a series of television productions. Unknown Talent is what it was called. I used to go around the country finding talent and create a show.
Okay.
So I did that. I did some documentaries, and I also did stage management in theater. So I was busy. The reason why I could have been that busy, we have the parents there to look after the kid. So you don't have any worry after work. You could go off and do whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But the grandparent would pick up the child and all that stuff. So it was easy for us to do. And my husband did a lot of music while he was there, working as an IT person. So the 3 years was really very positive. And my daughter got to know all her cousins. Remember, I'm the first of 10.
Yeah.
So there are lots
How many
of
cousins?
Well, right now, if I have to count, I have 28 nieces and nephews. I have 24 great nieces and nephews. And then I have maybe 5 or 6 great, whatever. Because I had one child, but most of them had 7 and 4 and 5, and they had more children than I did. So we have lots.
So when you go back to Trinidad,
It's a huge
Tobago,
reunion, right?
Yeah.
So
And so then do you cook for them?
Oh yes, of course. But she got that experience at a young age to know her cousins. So they remained very tight.
And how old was she at the time? When
She was 3 when we went
She
home
was 3. Okay.
and came back when she was 7.
Okay.
So all of that worked out perfectly while we went down. We came back, no regrets. But I did not go back to Bell. Remember, I had time to go
Yeah,
back.
you had 4 years.
I got bitten by that bug of theater and television and all of that,
Right.
and I stayed out. And I said to my husband, he got a job right away, I guess, in IT. I said, will we survive? How will we survive paying a mortgage, paying for a car, XXX, if I don't get a job? He said to me, do what you love. It's your passion. Stay with it. We'll survive. That's the kind of guy I have. And I went ahead, and someone heard I was back in Toronto from Caribana. And that's how I got into Caribana. They tracked me down and says, are you
They
back for
found you.
good? They found me.
Oh.
You're back for good? We knew you were in Trinidad. Yeah, I said, no, we returned. I'm back. Okay, come and see us. We'd like you to join Caribana. And that's how I got involved with Caribana.
Okay. So that, what was it?
1984.
1984. So what was it like then? Because now obviously it's huge. Everyone goes. What was it like in 1984?
There's a big difference between when I was in Caribana and what it is today.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Huge, but not in a good way.
Yeah, like socially, that must have.
Totally enjoyed my 7 years in Caribana. Okay. I started as a production manager, and in 2 years' time, I became the ED, the executive director of the organization, which was really a huge responsibility to take on But I'm challenged by things like that. And I did pretty well because I created the right amount of people around me to make the events and everything work. You don't think that you can do it alone. You have to get the right group of individuals with the right skills to make anything successful. So I had the right publicist. I had the right marketing person. I created great volunteer groups to manage all of the events. So I did a number of things that made it successful in those days.
How long did that take you to get a fully staffed team, to get so many people
About
involved?
2 or 3 years.
Okay.
It got me into having what I believe was the right mix.
Yeah.
In so much that the only time Caribana ever got corporate dollars up to $1 million was in 1988. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. First time and last time. Since
Really?
we got, first time and last time, since we got one corporation,
Really? That was the only time?
only time.
And it was government funded as well?
It's always government
grants?
funded, but not enough.
Right.
It's never enough with government
So
funding.
you need sponsors.
But the sponsorship had to take up the difference. And that year we got this $1 million that we never ever got before. And it was really, really great.
Because what was the
make that
budget like
happen.
beforehand? Before that $1 million?
Maybe half of that.
Right.
You're trying to run this huge festival on very little. There are times when I worked for no pay for 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, no pay for 6 months. There are
Or
times in like say 86, around 86, they cut the electricity in winter because we couldn't pay for it. And I had one staff person. We still went to work and worked in our coats. When we got too cold, went out to a coffee shop, warmed up, and came back. It didn't matter what I had to do. It was my culture, and I wanted to make it happen and keep going and moving forward. So nothing really stopped us. For instance, at that same time, we couldn't pay for a Xerox machine. We rented it. We had this rental printer, and we couldn't pay it. So they took it. Now I have to prepare all the grants to apply for the money
Yeah.
and all that stuff, all the marketing packages for sponsors and things like that. How am I printing it? I had to rely on a friend who had a printer and said, Joan, just come to me and I'll print everything for you. And that's how I lived through with one staff person that winter, printing things outside, working in the cold, but it didn't matter. It really was what was important to make the festival keep on.
Yeah. But what was the scale of the festival at the time? Like when it did happen? Like when it was, like how many people would show up?
At that time, we were still on University Avenue,
Okay.
where we were bursting at the seams, and the police was asking us to move it because it was insecure. If something happened to someone with 25 deep against a wall, the ambulance couldn't get to you.
Okay.
And that's where the danger, I saw it as well. That's where the danger was. And so the festival at that time, I would say, it was close to, wish I could remember the numbers in those days.
Well, it doesn't have to be exactly, but like.
At least 2 million people come into it.
Okay, so it's still huge.
Yeah, it was huge.
So it's
No,
still,
it was
okay,
huge.
okay.
It was huge. And
So it was 2 million people were coming in, but at the same time, during the winter, it was you and one other staff member trying. Okay.
we got staff in after we got our grant money and sponsorship money by about March or April. That's when I'll have 4 or 5 people full time working with us to make it happen. So it wasn't easy, but it was just me
Rewarding.
enjoying my culture and sharing it with everyone. And that's why I stayed with it until I had to leave.
Why'd you have to leave?
After 7 years, two things happened. I became the face of Caribana.
Right.
So everybody knew me. When they saw me, oh, you're the Caribana lady, they would say. So my face became very well known.
Okay.
And secondly, I was moving the festival forward. Of course, that was the time when we got all that sponsorship money.
Yeah.
I had the right marketing person, the right PR person to do the right, like, the right
The press
images.
release.
Right, the right images when we have the festival. Because prior to that, I was not happy with the pictures that the print media will put out, because it was just people dancing on the streets and in ways that I did not approve of in my mind. But I keep saying to them, this is a masquerade festival. We have costumes. I want to see costumes on the paper, not just people having fun only on the street.
To be represented properly.
That's right. So with the right PR person, she changed that within 2 years.
Wow.
And all the pictures came out costumes only.
And
But you had to have the right people to do that, and this publicist, Joan Pierre, she was one of the top ones in the city, and she did a fabulous job changing all of that media stuff around. So everything was working well with Joanne, with David Wilkinson as the marketing person. Everything was moving smoothly. We were raising money. Everything was, but listen to what happened when you have Caribbean male who can't handle leadership from a woman.
Okay.
So that was different.
Right.
Right? And because I was the ED, I had to give them directions to do things. And they did not want to take directions from me.
Really?
Nope. Because, and the thing about it is that I'm in my 40s at the time, but I didn't look as though I'm in my 40s. It's like today I'm 80. Nobody believes me. But then I was in my 40s and I looked like though maybe I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
So these older men couldn't handle.
Older than you?
Oh, a lot older than me.
Okay.
Couldn't handle me giving them directions. So what did they do? They decided they're going to restructure the organization. 2 people.
Really?
So they're going to restructure the organization. And I have to apply for my job. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I have to apply for my job.
How was that? Like, how could they? You being the executive director?
They're the board.
Sorry?
They're the board members.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I went to a lawyer
Sure.
and I said, like, what is this? It's just 2 of us. What are they restructuring? He says, they're just trying to get rid of you. That's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get rid of you. Because of my profile, they couldn't handle it. And you know what they actually said? We are the board members. The names out there, when people speak of Caribana, it should be yours. Should be theirs, sorry, not mine.
So it was
in order,
jealousy, it was a lot of
in
things.
order for us to get that recognition in the media, when people say Caribana, they don't say Joan Pierre, they say one of the board members. And the only way for us to get that, we have to get rid of her. And they fired me.
Wow.
Yep. They fired me in 1993.
How long did that process take? Because you got a lawyer. Did it go to?
I didn't bother to fight
No?
them. I just told, you know what I said to them? I'm leaving, but I'm leaving with Joan. You can't replace me that easily.
Okay.
And I left, and I have risen to the top since then, much further than they could ever go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then, so what happened with the festival afterwards? What was the aftermath?
it went downhill. Anybody will tell you, if you have followed Caribana, that it's not what it was when I was there, and I'll say that clearly, because they have not they did not run the festival properly after that because they did not have the skills or the right people to make it happen. So they made mistakes after mistakes. It's just horrible.
Did anyone follow you out? Because when they heard that
Yeah.
you were leaving,
Well, the publicists,
I can imagine.
the
yeah.
marketing,
Sure.
nobody who was working with me remained in there of any significance. And as I said, I have been totally successful since then. Why? When the huge facilities like Ontario Place, Canada Wonderland and stuff, where I was free, I was hired immediately to come and do things with them.
Sure.
So I was never without work. And I just grew from there. I got massive contracts all over the city, including the States and the Caribbean. I worked in New Orleans for a while. I got hired.
Yeah.
I worked in New Orleans for a while. For about 3-4 years, I was back and forth in New Orleans, running a gospel festival.
I was going to ask about that also. what was that like?
It was
Obviously,
really,
from Toronto to New Orleans, I think there's a very
it's
big
far.
difference between the two.
Well, what happened is the same year they got rid of me, Essence magazine in the States, I don't know them. No. It's the black magazine in the States. And they came to Toronto, met with me and said they wanted to do a story on black women in Toronto.
Okay.
So I pulled together the right group of women for them to interview, and I was the lead in the story. So I had a big spread in Essence, and that's an American magazine.
Yeah, okay.
This lady in New Orleans saw it and tracked me down out of this article and say, would you come and help me with a gospel festival I'm trying to grow in New Orleans? And I went. And
Just
that's
like
how
that.
I got, just like that.
Okay.
And that's how I got to New Orleans.
What was that experience like?
It was fabulous.
I can imagine. I've only heard great things about New Orleans. Yeah.
It's working down there. And of course, it's all about the church and the choirs coming out of the church. Because you know the Americans, they got huge choirs in all of their churches. Mm-hmm. And it was this festival with all these choirs coming together. So going down there and managing this festival with her, the first thing I did, she wanted it to grow. She had about maybe 500 or 600 people attending when I first started with her. And she said, how can I make this grow? Because she's seen what I did in Caribana. And I said, okay, you have an easy way to make this grow. Just look at all the neighboring cities attached to New Orleans. Anything that's an hour out, you go out there and you share what you're doing. Just map it out, go out, visit, talk to the churches over there, and get them involved. In a matter of 4 years, she had 10,000 people coming. Because it's a church. Churches will follow each other, and they have great. I mean, she was bringing people like Kurt Franklin when he was still young. Mm-hmm. He's really short, this guy. Although I'm short, when I met him, he was like, "Wow, yeah." And she had all the great voices coming on top of the choirs, so people will come. Mm. So it was like, okay. And in no time, she had thousands of people coming. I met Clinton working with her. And I remember meeting him at something she was going to, and she took me with her. And he said, you're from Canada? I said, yes. He said, how come you're down here helping us? I said, because I like this lady here. You know, but he's really tall, that guy. But anyway, so that was my 3-year stunt in New Orleans.
And for you, when you choose to take on a project, do you focus more on the idea of the project itself, the concept of the project itself, or the people involved? Like, for example, you went to New Orleans to work on something that wasn't very big at the time, but then you mentioned that you did it because of the lady that you were working with. Mm-hmm. Is that what you focused on most?
Not really. I looked at what their objective, the mission, and the vision is all about.
Okay.
So I look into who they are and what they're trying to do. And then I fit my thinking into it.
You align with it.
And I say, okay, this is what you can do with what you have. I also helped her to get sponsorship as well. I got her Coca-Cola, which she never had before. So it's just, And when you're passionate about something, juices flow.
It's true.
You know, you just, because you're into it, you love it, things just come up and realize, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can make this happen. You know, it's really, it's a joy. It's really a joy when you find that passion.
And it doesn't feel like work. Okay. And then, so from then on, what I really want to know about also is the Pan Am Games. Because that's I
huge.
didn't live here when it happened, but I've kept on hearing about it, and I live in like downtown Toronto, but I go to the Scarborough campus of U of T a lot. So obviously the Pan Am Center.
Am,
So I
yes,
hear about
yeah.
it a lot. I see it a lot. So you organized fashion events there.
Well, how it came about is, strange enough, a person who was in Caribana at the time, Edison, he introduced me to the chair of the Pan Am Games here and said, you got to meet with Don Shipley. I said, okay. So I went and sat with him. And he says, well, we want to do something different within the games, not just have games. Only want to have some fun or something interesting. What can you come up with? So I went away and came up with two concepts. One, it's Pan Am Games 2015. Let's use the schools with kids age 15 and do something that will have them engage.
Get them involved. Yeah.
And get them involved. So that was one. And then the second one was a Caribbean fashion show, because I could get designers out of Trinidad. And he said, okay. So I gave them both concepts. And then he came and said, we want the fashion show. I'm like, all right. I pitched 2. He came back, we want 3. So I say, Don, do you know what that means to have 3 shows with designers coming from different islands? I said, that's going to be a big challenge, you know. Let's stay with 2, please. Even while I'm begging him to stay with 2, they start advertising. I saw 3 on their website. I went like, Don, please drop 1. Please drop 1. Just let's do 2. So eventually he dropped 1.
Okay.
And we did 2. But it was really very, very, very interesting to do that with Pan Am Games. I had a great team working with me. I had about 80 volunteers I pulled together to make it happen. One was on the lake, off the lake shore, by the water.
Okay.
So the outdoor one, thank God we had 25 degrees blue sky that day.
You never know.
You never know.
No.
But it was a beautiful day, and we built a stage just along the water. So when the models are going across the stage, you're seeing boats in the background moving across, which was really beautiful. So that one, and then 2 days later, I had the big one at the Western Harbour Castle, which was indoor, and that was more of the upscale fashion show.
Sure. Yeah.
The outside one was more the casual summer look outside. So it was one of the milestones in my life that I'll never forget.
I can imagine, and then especially like having 2 events that represent Caribbean culture.
Yes.
Is that something you could have imagined happening when you first moved?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't see something
Like
as
on
massive
such a
as
large
that.
scale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did fashion shows prior to that in Toronto, with the Consul General office here, and bringing up designers from Trinidad and doing like a one night off. So I've done a couple of those prior to 2015. I did about 3, starting in 2009, I think, was the first one. And so I was used to bringing people in and making it work. But then to bring so many of them in and manage them and look after them and make sure everything, it is a challenge, but that makes me really, really happy.
Yeah, I can imagine the more challenging it is, the more rewarding it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Would you say that was the biggest challenge of it? Trying to manage everyone and make sure that they're all good, they're where they need to be.
Well, it was in the line of managing Caribana with so many millions of people coming into your city.
True.
So it's that level of detail that you have to remember, and make sure you You cover all bases. Like people see sometimes event planning as something simple. It's not. And it's the fine details that will break you if you don't remember them. You have to focus on all aspects of it at the biggest or the smallest. You got to pay attention and always have a backup
All the
plan.
little things. Contingency planning. Yeah. I have a class
Always
this
have
semester
a
that covers exactly that.
Always have a backup plan in case of whatever could possibly happen.
I guess that that must have been like such a proud moment to be able to represent your own culture on such a large scale to
Yes.
people who may not be familiar with it, to people
Yeah.
who may not want to be familiar with it even. Yeah, that must have been extremely rewarding.
It was really rewarding to have had that. And Don Shipley and myself remain friends as of today.
Yeah, so?
Yeah, we're very close. He spoke at my 80th birthday last year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had a big 80th birthday party where I created an event to raise money for Amnesty International Canada.
Right.
So you pay to come to the event. It's my 80th birthday, but you're really helping Amnesty International Canada, giving back. You always say you have to give back. So that, and he spoke at it, and it was just fabulous.
Okay. So then I think we're going to start wrapping up. So as the closing segment,
Okay.
the closing segment is, your advice for younger people and sort of, you mentioned in the questionnaire that I sent that you wanted to share your story in the hopes that young people could take something away from it. What, you've done a lot of successful things. You've worked on incredible projects.
That's a huge one.
That's a big question. It's a very loaded question.
Yeah, it is. But I have to simplify it by saying what guided me over the years. And it is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Okay.
I followed it. And I made sure I brought it here so that I can really read the details of what it is.
The Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
That's right.
Okay.
First, psychologically, air, food, water, shelter, clothing, reproduction, and sleep. Okay. Next level is safety, security, employment, resources, property, and health. The third, love and belongings, friendship, love, intimacy, family, community. Esteem, self-esteem, respect, status, freedom, and recognition. And when you get to the top, it's self-actualization. That's what I follow. And that's what people should really, young people, should try to follow those steps in their lives to get to that self-actualization piece. And I'll tell you what that means.
And so it's progressive.
Yes.
Okay.
It's step, step, step. And like I have a friend who clearly fits right into this. Owned his own business, very successful.
Okay.
His hobby is golf. So he travels all over the world playing golf. Mm-hmm. But he also chose islands where he could give back. Pack boxes of clothing, school supplies, computer supplies, and he'll give back to the islands. Not particularly his island. He's Trinidadian, he gives back to Guyana.
Right.
So he'll pick something that he can give back because he was successful. He's still very successful, and he can do this. And that gives him complete satisfaction and joy. And that's what people are supposed to work towards.
To get to a point where
you can really, and you don't have to have money to give back. No. Like I give back. I don't have the wealth of like my friend, with this big business that he owns, but I give back in different ways. Like wherever I could help someone, wherever they find in difficulty in moving ahead, I'm there. And they know they can call me anytime to do anything for them. And you have to have yourself in that position for people to want to come to you. You have to have the personality where they feel comfortable coming to you, and always leave that door open to helping others. And I would say that the second thing that you wanted me to answer, and I
Yes.
still will answer it now. When you talk about my legacy,
Your legacy. Yes.
that was a hard one to come
yeah.
up with. Like,
Yeah,
how do you
yeah,
say?
How
I
do you
worked on it a
sum
lot.
up? How do you sum it up?
I
Yeah.
sum it up like this. I will hope that through my community involvement, I've strengthened bonds, uplifted those around me, and made space for people to feel seen and supported. That's
So-
me.
And that goes back to the number one points of the hierarchy.
That's right.
Okay. Well, and so that's for you the most important thing that
Yep.
young people should try and strive towards, to get to follow all those steps of the hierarchies to then get to a point where
Yeah.
you can give back to a community that's helped you a lot. It's a community that you've represented and has represented you.
Exactly. Like there's what young people should work towards is finding their passion very early in life. Find that passion. You may not find, I found it in my 40s. So find that passion and work towards that. And you could only have success when you're working at your passion, because it's love and joy
And
to
you
do
want
it. And you want to do it. And you'll always want to do it better. And I'll leave one statement my father gave me when I left Trinidad.
Please.
He said to me, "You're going into a country that you don't know. Whatever you do, work at 110%. Always give it 110%, no matter how big or small it is." I've lived by that. Everything I do, I give it 110%. Nothing less. No matter if it's a big event or it's a small event, I give 110%. You always give your clients, when I have my events, something they did not expect. I'll add it to it.
Yeah.
Always give extra if you can. It doesn't cost you much to give extra. So always give extra when you can.
Yeah. That's yeah. Do you ever find it? I mean, obviously, but I can imagine there have been moments where that must have been very difficult. Like, for example, when the two people from Caribana, the board members, tried to fire you. Like, has there ever been a moment where you sort of did not want to live up to that and
No.
not give 110%?
No. You don't let anything that come. We all will have roadblocks and valleys to dip in and dip out of. Life is not smooth. It's not like an easy road for you to walk. So you will meet those challenges. You just persevere. Do not give up. Continue doing what you know is the right thing to do. Never give up. And you will find the rainbow at the other end.
And so did you ever have people, I mean, I think everybody does, but do you ever have people that, how did you handle people who questioned it? Who were like, what are you doing? Who doubted your own process? Because I think that's what a lot of young people are sort of intimidated by.
I ignore them and just push on. Don't let anyone take what you know is the right thing for you. I just ignore and move on.
Right.
I'll tell you one thing I did at age 40.
Okay.
I talk to myself at my zeros, and I have many of them, right? And I said, okay, what do I want the next 10 to be?
Right.
At 40, I decided any negative person around me, you're gone. I don't encourage negativity to be breathing in my space. If I find you're a very negative person, you can have nothing nice to say about anybody, there's always something very negative, I get you out of my space. I don't deal with it. And I wouldn't say anything to you, I just pull back.
Yeah.
You won't hear from me, I'm not texting you, I'm not calling you, I'm done.
And they get the message.
And they get the message after a while. They may say to other people, June suddenly stopped calling me. I don't hear from her anymore. I say nothing to anybody. I'm not saying why. I've satisfied myself by removing your negativity from my space. Everybody will have negative stuff, It's not everything positive. But there's so much that you can take. And I am not prepared to be miserable because of another person. Right. I like positive thinking, solve your problem, move ahead with what you have to do. So at 40, that was it. No negative stuff.
Okay. I think that's a very good note to leave it on. When is your next visit to Trinidad and Tobago planned?
In 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, all right. So you're
I'm going down for Easter. And the reason
Nice.
why my great nephew is a swimmer, he's in university in the States studying, and they have what you call the Carifta competition in Trinidad.
Okay.
And he's coming back to represent Trinidad
Nice.
in the swim meet. So we all going down.
You're all going to go watch him?
Yeah.
Wow.
We all going down to
and
see
your
him.
siblings as well?
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure for him.
But anyway, so that's my trip to Trinidad on 17th of April, I leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Looking forward to
very
it.
Exciting. Good luck to him then.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I think we'll wrap it up there.
Okay.
If that's, yeah.
Well, it was my pleasure being